as I was saying, this is a very interesting and challenging slot because I'm standing between you and your dinner. So I try to make this talk as sharp as possible and let you go as fast as possible. But I would like to encourage more interactive discussion. If you have any question you want to ask, don't have to wait until I finish the talk. Just ask me. Okay. Well, thanks to IDA also for the invitation. This is an honor, and also your time. Okay. Today my topic is regarding the next generation data center. Something very close to my heart. As you heard earlier on, I've been in the IT world for 30 years, 32 years actually, probably longer than some of you living in this world. So, all my life I've been working with all kind of IT solution, including running some of the centers for IBM. So, there's a change in the landscape now. If you are working in the IT world, don't mind I ask, how many of you are actually working in IT? IT? Okay. Most of you, and the rest are users of IT, I presume, or from IDA. So if you are working in IT or using IT, you're probably aware of 4 things that going on in IT world. First, of course, is cloud computing. You cannot do away with cloud. Everybody's talking about cloud. And the other thing is the mobile, right? And social is another third thing. And the last thing is the big data. And all these are actually connected, right? You have to implement some of this mobile application on the cloud, and maybe collecting the data from the mobile devices, so they can do big data analysis, and so on. So all these are connected. So to me, the common denominator probably is cloud computing. Maybe I'm biased. Yeah. So what I want to walk through with you a couple of things tonight. I will talk about the changes in the IT leaders, the CIO, and the way the data center is being run, and basically from there bring in what cloud computing can make a difference, and also maybe some basic 101 on cloud computing. Do stop me if that's too basic for you. And then I'll look at how data center is important, and the role of IT leaders and CIO is important in helping the business to gain the velocity. You can talk about all technology, but if the technology is not helping business, it's no use. So I'm going to focus on the business velocity and then break it down into 3 areas: business agility, the IT cost and visibility, as well as the service openness. Looking at these 3 components, how they relate to promoting the business velocity and how cloud computing can help. And last, maybe talk about how can you start with the cloud computing journey. Some simple steps. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the industry. This is not something new. I guess most of you know about this. If you are running IT center, like some of my past life, you always have problem of a tight IT budget. You don't have the people with right skill, and then you're concerned about the running costs. For example, energy consumption. That is one of the big ticket items as well. And then, on the other hand, the business demand a lot from IT department, right? Because business is become very, very complex these days, and then changes very, very fast in very short time. So all this required very fast response from IT department, and that kind of doesn't gel very well with the traditional IT. Okay. And a couple of numbers I want to share here, not to worry about all of them, just want to highlight a few of them. IDC actually did a survey saying that in the next 10 years, there's about 6 times growth in the server, in terms of power, in terms of number of server. It's 6 times more. There's a lot actually. And then that translates into 69 times more requirement for storage. Yeah, and that kind of trigger off a series of other things. For example, there will be 18% increase in data center energy usage every year. That's something. And then also the technology has evolved so fast. The technology density also increases. What it means here is, for example, you have a blade server. Nowadays, you can put 128 different blades in the housing. Yeah? So the density kind of become denser and higher. But despite of that, many of the data centers found that 80% of their center capacity are not really effectively used. That's kind of oxymoron, right? Here you don't have enough power, people asking for more. Then you put in more power. Then you realize that, the usage pattern is not constant. Sometimes go out, sometimes goes down. So at the end, if you average out, maybe 80% of your capacity are not used. So the ideal will be, you have a capacity which can be expanded and then shrink as and when you need it. That's where cloud computing comes in. Yeah. And also, there is a trend, surprisingly, this can be, against the common sense. Nowadays, people tend to think about distributed computing, right? You believe that, your computing power is spread all over the place. But there's a trend for people, especially data centers, to consolidate, reduce the number of servers. One good example is IBM. I was sharing just now with IDA folks that our own experience, we used to have 15,000 servers in our data center. Today we only have 6,005. And we're talking about reducing furthermore. For a couple of reasons. One of them is you try to reduce the footprints so that you don't pay a lot of real estate. And then also, again, back to the energy consumption, right? And another trend, of course, most of people think that somehow, somewhere, they must have a cloud implemented in the data center. Okay, let me maybe dive in a little bit in the technical aspect of what changed in the CIO responsibility. If you look at the CIO responsibility, there are a couple of things, right? You have to worry about the, sorry, let me go back. You have to worry about the physical building, the real estate, where your data center is. And then you have to worry about all the components, the server, storage, the network, and also, of course, the security, both physically and the IT. Yeah. And today, that kind of expanded. The CIO will have to worry more than that. I'm sure many of you heard about bring your own device, right? BYOD. And in the old days, people like me always remember BYO. When you go to a restaurant, if you see BYO, it means that you can bring your own wine. But that kind of restaurants are gone already. You have to pay for the wine which is supplied by the restaurant. Now, BYOD, bring your own device, is a trend that's very common today. You bring your own, your iPad, your iPhone, your PDA, and the CIO has to worry about how to link up with all those devices they bring, how to provide IT services to make it available on the device, right? And also the application become more and more virtualized. In fact, there's a very interesting survey done by Gartner. It says 60% of application will be on virtual machine by 2014. Sorry. Virtualization, in short, meaning that it means that you have application, and the application can be sliced into small pieces, and then run in the different cores or run in different CPU, okay? And then you assemble it back when it's done. So that's virtualization. So CIO has to worry about all this virtualization of application and manage it. And on top of that, you have a whole bunch of things that they had to worry about. They had to worry about the security, especially you have your own device. How do you secure it? How do you account for it? How do you make sure that all the virus will not get to the data center through your handphone? That can happen. Okay? How do you build the firewall to protect yourself? Okay. So life has changed, and then they have to worry about system management. So data center become very complex. You have more things to worry, and also need to manage it. You have the system manage it. Okay. And now, if you look at traditional IT shop, one of the problems that we face is, it takes time for the IT shop to develop something. So very common, they'll tell you, 4 months, 6 months, maybe 1 year before you can see the application that you want get done. And today that doesn't jive very well with the business. The business changes very fast. So if it will take a few months to come up with an application that can address business need, that is too slow. Yeah. So IT department is being accused now for slowing down the business. Now, what is the role of a CIO these days? To me, CIO is a person or IT leader. It can be, no need to be a CIO. IT leader in the organization has to play a role as a business enabler. And what does it enable? Basically, the end result of the enabling is to help the business to react fast. So that's where business velocity comes in. So basically, they are talking about business velocity, how you react, how the business react faster, responds faster to the business need. So if you want to look at business velocity, you can study the literature in the market. There are a lot of articles actually on the business velocity. Basically, you can look at three things. One is the business agility. How do you improve the business agility? How do you do that while have an eye on the IT cost? Basically, IT visibility, IT cost visibility. And then how do you make yourself open so that you can create a community, work with your partners, work with your customer? They become very, very common these days, right? Yeah, because everybody with a social network, the customer and business provider, service provider are actually interacting with each other. Okay. So let's look at how cloud computing helps in these three areas. First, business agility. How to improve business agility. Again, you break it down, there are three different things. You can help the business become agile by looking at how you deploy a cloud computing technology. Yeah. So here we are talking about different kind of deployment model. And then how do you select different kind of services? Therefore, you can decide what kind of deployment model is suitable for you. And last, how do you capitalize on your partners so that you don't have to create everything from scratch? So let's look at the first, which is the deployment model. Now, if you're new to cloud computing, first thing you probably have to learn is a few words. We talk about public cloud, we talk about shared cloud, we talk about private cloud. What do they really mean? Maybe give me a couple of minutes, just quickly run through it. Start with the public cloud. this is probably people have in mind when you talk about the cloud. This example like Amazon, example like SoftLayer, which IBM recently bought. You can go in and anytime use a credit card, you can actually use it already. Yeah. And then you have shared cloud, whereby a little bit more secure and suitable for enterprise. And you can have two kinds of shared cloud. You can have one which is, you really share the resources. That means the resources in the cloud center or cloud provider does not really ring fence certain resources just for you. You're actually sharing the resources. Now, of course, you can take that one step forward and have the resources in the cloud provider side to be ring fenced and then just cater for you. So that become a hosted private cloud which is shared. So you can replace this name IBM with any other service provider. The cloud service provider will own the facility but operate for you and ring fence the resource for you. So it's as if like you have the resources all by yourself. Then of course at the other end is a private cloud deployment model. There are two types. One is you own it, right? The difference between the private cloud and shared cloud is anything in private cloud, the facility, the infrastructure will be in your premises. Whereas shared cloud, all the infrastructure are actually not in your premises. It's in the service provider premises. Okay. So private cloud, two types. One, you own it, but the cloud provider runs it for you. So actually you see your machine, but somebody runs it for you. And the other one is you have a private cloud, right? And it's run by yourself. So in other words, today, let's say you already have an infrastructure. Your infrastructure can actually be converted into a cloud environment. Can be done. There are software that you can install. We have Smart Cloud entry, couple of software, Cast Iron and so on, that help you to make your environment become a cloud environment for yourself. So the benefit to you will be, remember the 85% underutilization? Once you make your environment become a cloud environment, you can actually offer a little bit better kind of a utilization. Yeah, you can identify where's the slack and then use the elasticity of the cloud environment to increase the usage of your spare capacity. So this is a deployment model. Now, how do you decide what kind of deployment model is good for you? You can, the obvious step will be to look at your workload. And when we talk about workload, there are two kinds of workload. One is the infrastructure workload. Example would be like security, monitoring, system management. Those are the infrastructure kind of workload. And then they have the other kind of workload, which is the enterprise application workload. And this can be anything like industrial application. It can be business analytics. This is one example that we use to help one of our customers to decide which deployment model that he should go for. Right? So looking at the various type of workload that important to our customer, then they decide where to go. Not to worry if you don't have the skill to understand what kind of workload to select the deployment model. You can always approach people like us, and IBM to help you to do that. Okay. So this is the selecting of the deployment model, like by looking at the workload. And the other thing which is possible in the cloud computing environment is, you don't have, as IT leader or CIO or owner of the data center, you don't have to develop everything from scratch. Because it's very easy for you to look at some of the existing application. There are cloud-based applications that you can easily actually borrow and use. Yeah. And because there is a standard being kind of promoted in the cloud computing environment, so many of this cloud implementation is going to be conforming to the standard. And IBM is actually one of the companies very, very, very heavy behind some of the standard. I'm not sure whether you heard about OpenStack. That is one of the standard in the industry. And just like IBM did for the Linux, this is going to happen for the OpenStack. Okay. So one example of partner services, things like Google Map and so on. If you have any application that you need to develop for your business need that requires some map capabilities, can always use the existing one in the market. Remember, I mentioned earlier on, you can get yourself more agile, but has to be at a price that you can pay. So, looking at the IT costs and ability to have a visibility of IT costs is very important. When you talk about IT costs, there are one very simple concept is the more you customize, the more you have to pay, both in developing it as well as running it. If you were to use standard software, standard routines, anything that is standardized, off the shelf, you're going to pay less. So therefore, there is this common rule of thumb that we normally apply. Now, I want to introduce another concept in cloud computing. It's called service model. So I'm sure you heard about things like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, business process as a service, data as a service, and what have you as a service. Yeah. But traditionally, in general, what we talk about when you speak about the service models of cloud computing, we are talking about these three things. Now, what is the difference between the traditional on-premise as well as the comparing with the this IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS? The difference are here. If you can break down the IT components in the data center, you have a networking, you have storage, server, and then you have virtualization, you have OS, you have middleware, and your runtime, data, and application. So these are the components that you can actually call them out. Yeah. And the capability of cloud computing is to decouple some of these components. So if you're talking about the infrastructure as a service, what you have to worry about is all this lighter part, right? You don't have to worry about the networking, storage, server, and virtualization. This will be taken care of by the cloud computing provider, right? So that's where the decoupling comes. So when it comes to platform as a service, the level of decoupling kind of goes up a little bit. You only worry about your application and your data. So when it comes to service, software as a service, basically you don't have to worry about anything. You don't worry about your data. The software will be provided. The upgrade will be done by the cloud computing provider. Okay. And the more you move along this line, the more you are using standardized component. Therefore, the cost is predictable. You know how much you're going to use. Any idea how much it's going to cost you if you were to, say, engage a cloud computing service with one core for 1 month, maybe provide you with 2 gig of RAM? Any idea how much it is?
$5.
Huh?
$5
per day? Per day is about right. But less, actually, less than $5. It can be less than $5. So a month, if you look at the website, not just IBM, anywhere, $100+, you can have one call. Yeah.
Don't you get $30 per month in Amazon?
$30, depending on what you get. Of course, $30.
Mine, for instance.
Yeah, you probably can get, but you have to, when you engage the service, there are a lot of selection. If you are using public domain OS, you pay nothing, it's $0. But if you go to use Microsoft, you pay maybe $20 per month. So the $130 per month probably, assuming that, yeah. Unless you go to Microsoft cloud services, Azure, then you don't pay for the operating system, but you pay for other things. Okay. Just want to give you an example. Depending on where you are, what kind of service that you're getting. As a IT leader, you still have to worry about the system management optimization. So you have to manage that. And of course, if you were to choose to do that, and it's your responsibility, then there will be tools that you can use. Right? This is an example from IBM. Of course, you can get example from other vendors as well. So if you are doing, say, take for example infrastructure as a service, we have this product called Pure Flex. You can run it. Or you can go on to soft layer and then subscribe the service of the internet, right? And then right now we have about 80, 90 software as a service that you can subscribe to. Example like Smart Commerce on the cloud. Trusteer is a new company that we just bought, which is the application that you can use to take care of your mobile device security, fraud detection and so on. Okay, let's move on to service openness. This is the third part of the business velocity. Now, why we care about service openness? Today, business is open, right? Social media and so on, and they make the business very different from the old days. So, for anyone that run a data center, you have to bear in mind that how to make your center become open. And of course, the number one thing is to select open standard compliance implementation. And one example is OpenStack, right? And just now we talked about the operating system. If you were to use a public domain operating system, you don't pay a cent. That's one of the benefits as well. But other benefit is, if everybody is doing standard, then when you do collaboration with your business partner or your customer or your competitor, sometimes it's easy to collaborate. Okay. And then the other good thing is, this is some of the things that we notice. Some of our customers actually have their core competency that they build on cloud. Eventually, that core competency can be shared with their business partner or people that they do business with in the community. One good example is, if you look at Amazon started not as a cloud service provider, right? We all know that Amazon started their business selling books. Then they start to sell everything under the sun through the internet. And over the years, they actually built out their infrastructure, become a cloud-based kind of infrastructure. And at the end, they actually monetize that and move into cloud service as a cloud service provider. So that's good. One good example of your core competency become a value to the community, which we can sell, right? Okay, so I want to give you another example of the community cloud. Now, when you have openness, then the community cloud can be created. let me skip this one. I want to introduce you a community cloud that IBM helped to build up in the States. It's called Supplier Connection. Now, the purpose of this cloud implementation is to help connect the suppliers and the MNC buyers. How many of you come from the small and medium enterprise industry? Okay. Okay, what I'm going to say, you probably will empathize quite a bit. For small and medium enterprise to survive, of course, you have to sell, right? And you have to sell to big boys. That's where your break is. And if you know how the big boys or big girls, MNCs, select the supplier, they actually put these small and medium enterprises through a very stringent process to qualify as a supplier to them. And that become a very, very tedious process. Imagine if you were to deal with 10 MNC buyers, all right, you have to do 10 times. And every time you have a change in your company status, you have to update 10 times. And then, these 10 buyers may use different system as well. So you have to deal with different updates and different systems and so on. So this platform was set up by addressing that issue. Because if you were to look at the way suppliers being qualified by the MNC buyers, maybe 80%, 90% of the qualification or criteria are similar. Very similar. So this tool has about 200 data set that the supplier has to fill up. Once you fill up, you kind of address maybe up to 90% of your requirement that you need to fulfill to be qualified by the MNC buyer. So with this, right now, there is about 19 PNNC. And then that represents about 500 plus buyers. Each MNC will have more than one buyers, right? And different department of the MNC might have different criteria of qualifying the supplier. And today there are about 2,500 suppliers that are registered on this platform. So this actually help all those MNC, all those suppliers in the States to be recognized, identified by the MNC buyers in the States, and therefore the business is encouraged, and the business grow among the MNC is promoted, and job created. Okay. So again, this platform did not happen overnight. It came out a few years ago when Obama administration came to some of the MNCs in the States and asked them, what can you do to help the small and medium enterprises in the States to grow? And therefore that came about, and then the idea was mooted 2010, and it took about 3 years to grow from a very initial concept to where it is right now. And today there's about, I was told, close to 1 billion transactions that done through this platform. What I'm trying to say is, cloud computing journey is not overnight. It's a journey that will take time. It will take time. That will bring me to another topic, which is how do you embark on this journey? So let's move on. We understand that cloud computing is not an answer for everything, and then everybody will need different kind of implementation. So there's no one size fit all kind of situation. So if you want to think about how you can improve your data center to be a business enabler to help your business to react faster with a higher velocity, you can start with this 7-step, very simple 7-step. you start from your traditional IT, you do a consolidation, and then you go through a 3-step approach: virtualize, standardize, automate. Right? And then you look at how you can share the resources and then implement the cloud. Okay. So it's an evolution kind of a journey rather than a revolution. So don't have to jump into cloud computing blindly. So there are steps that you can go through. Of course, if you need help, you can always approach some of us, including other vendors. Okay. Now, IBM has a long history in cloud. Although cloud computing only started like a couple of years ago, but if you were to look at the core of the cloud computing, the core has 3 things. One is the virtualization, second, standardization, and automate. Of course, the last one I shouldn't forget. Integrate 4 things. But the key thing is the virtualization. Without virtualization, there's no possibility for cloud computing. So the basic thing is virtualization. In fact, IBM started working on the virtualization 45 years ago. 43 years, 45 years. In fact, when I first joined IBM 30 years ago, I was given a task to actually manage one of the operating system called virtual machine, VM. And that is virtualization. The difference between the virtualization then and now is, then we have one computer, one mainframe, and then we virtualize within the computer, the same computer. But the concept is similar. You're taking the application and slice it into many parts and run it in the time-sharing kind of a manner, so that you can have at one time multiple application running. Everybody have a fair share of the CPU. Yeah? So that kind of expanded today to run on not just one CPU, but multiple CPU. Yeah? So we have a long history of working with the virtualization and all the way until now. Today, we are expanding our cloud computing capability by not just build ourselves, but also acquire companies. I mentioned about the Cast Iron. It's a company that we acquired a couple of years ago to help us to help our client to cloudify their current application. Let's say you already have a traditional data center, you want to move into cloud. Cast Iron will be able to be used to help you to look at your application and how you make it a cloud application. Okay? And then we also bought a company like SoftLayer, which is a public cloud infrastructure as a service company, and we have XT5, which is the cloud-based mobile messaging tool. Is used commonly in in commercial world, right? And also Trustier, which is a company that we bought recently for mobile cloud security. So we are growing very fast by not just organic growth, but also by buying companies. Okay. And other things that we are doing internally is our supply chain. As you probably not aware, IBM is a manufacturer, and then we have one of the most complex supply chain in the world. Today we have 25,000 business partners that we work with. They are suppliers to us, and we have to manage them. And we're talking about company doing business in 170 countries. We have 400,000 people. So our supply chain is actually quite massive. And of course, we have a lot of legacy systems that we built. Today, many of these systems are refreshed and port over to cloud. There are a couple of reasons we are doing that. Remember, we are talking about, in a cloud environment, you can have a community that we can share what you have, and then some of this, what you have, can be monetized. Yeah? And some of this application that we have internally used in our supply chain will eventually can be commercialized. And that's what we're trying to do. Yeah? So this is our journey. Okay, in summary, before I go into summary, any question?
Just a quick question. Going back to your earlier point about IBM had what, 15,000 data centers?
Yeah,
Now you have
data servers.
Servers?
Yes.
Now you have 6,000.
6,005 servers.
So how much of that is because of cloud computing, or if any? How do you manage to reduce that number to?
We started reducing our number of servers since in the 90s. Because in the 90s, the company went through a very tough time. I don't know whether any of you, follow the market, follow the industry in the 90s. IBM almost went bust. Yeah. Then we changed the whole company. And one of the things that we changed is try to reduce costs internally. And then one of the things that we do was reducing from 128 CIO to 1. Yeah. So you have one CIO, there's no reason for you to have too many data centers, right? So you consolidate everything, reducing 15,000 servers into 6,005 today. So we started the journey almost 20 years ago. Right? Yeah. And of course, at the end part, we started to introduce a lot more cloud computing into the process. Yeah. Okay. All right. So in past 40 minutes, you went through with me to understand the change in the IT leaders' responsibility, and then we look at how IT and data center can be helped by the cloud computing, and how cloud computing can be a tool that you use to enable business velocity, right? And also we talk about the step-by-step journey to be cloud-enabled. Okay. So we cover all this, but to leave with you something, I thought maybe it's a good idea to give you a book. I'm sure many of you know about this book for dummies. I'm not saying that you are dummies, but it's a series, book for dummies. And IBM actually have a book for dummies series. This is a limited edition. It talks about cloud and then how cloud can be implemented in a mid-sized company. I don't have the physical books here. I'm not allowed to give out physical book, but you can download it from the website. But you have to register. You register and then download, and it's free for you. I believe IDA has helped me to print out this page and give it to all of you. Have we? Oh, okay. Okay. Basically, what you need to do is there's a website called www.ibm.com. This is standard, right? /cloudbook combined. CLOUDBOOK. Registered, the book is yours. And then you have everything that I presented earlier on in the book and more. Okay? Well, thank you very much for your attention. Really appreciate your time.